Well, listen, I get to sit with Albert Tadevosyan, Y-A-N, but sort of sounds like S-I-A-N, Tadevosyan.
Yes.
And Albert, I am excited you're here. I got to meet you through great friends who've also sat right in these chairs, Jim and Katie Kelly, who have been great friends, great students of mine forever. And Katie asked me to be a part of a mastermind, a kind of a day gathering mastermind of some of the greats in the world of State Farm insurance. And Jim and Katie are among the greats of the State Farm insurance world. And it was there that I met you, and I met your brother, and several other accomplished people in the State Farm world. Well, this is just sort of the highlight film as I've come to discover of what you're about and what you and your brother are about in the world of State Farm. But there's so much more that just has intrigued me. And I'm really excited to get into this podcast because I know we're going to take away a bucket of things that we can learn. Thanks for being here, first of all. This podcast is really fun because I get to sense greatness in people, and then here I get to sit and listen and discover what it is that makes you tick, and what it is that has led to these great accomplishments that you have. So I'd love to start with a word. Now, I always do this, and I don't know that I'm right on this, but what I know about you so far is there's this word dedication is got to be a part of your DNA, because you don't get to where you are in business, you don't get to where you are in all of the pieces of your world without focused dedication. So we'll see if I'm right when we come back to the end of this at the end. But I want you to start with where you were born and raised and those first influences in your life. Obviously your parents, but you tell me, what were the influences? What was childhood like for you, Albert?
Yeah, I feel that I grew up a little too fast because when I came to the United States, I was 14.
Okay.
And then imagine a 14 years old looking at eighth grade kids, my age, playing dodgeball in PE. I thought I was too old to play with them. I thought I was, why are they playing games? So we grew up a little too fast in Armenia. So I was 7 years old when my dad and my brother moved to the United States for better opportunities. So I was left with my mom and my sister.
So your brother is, I've met your brother, and he's how much older than you?
He's 5 years older than me.
5 years older. And your dad came to the United States with him. Mm-hmm. So... but you stayed behind with your mom and your sister. Yeah,
our hope was we would come a year or so later, but it took them 7 years to bring us to U.S.
Wow!
So I was left the man of the house.
Right.
At 7 years old.
Was that hard? I have to imagine that was difficult seeing your dad and your brother leave.
My mom says I was in a balcony just singing how I miss my brother and my dad and just lonely.
Yeah.
And then obviously got used to it. It seemed like for a long time it was just, you would call us that phone services back then. You would have to go there to request to make a call to the United States. There was no Skype. There was no phones in the houses. And so we would talk to them once a month. And it was just like... I have a brother and a dad, but they're just not here. I got used to it. I got used to that. We were very numb to it.
And when they left, you were how old?
I was 7 years old.
7 years old. Huh, wow. What did your dad do in Armenia?
So he would always do construction, whatever offered. There's no job, so whatever is offered he would do. So many times he would fly to Russia and he would work and he would send us money. So that was my entire, up until 7 years old. We would move to Moscow. We lived there for a bit, and then we would come back to Armenia, and then he would go back and forth. And I remember he would come to Armenia, I would be very excited, and then 5 days later, he'd go back to Russia again. And so that was my entire childhood of rarely seeing him.
So him not being there consistently was something you were already used to. Tell me how was it when your brother left, though? A big brother that, I mean, you're in striking distance to be close at that age to your older brother, I would assume. Yeah. That had to be tough to have him go.
He was protecting me, right? So there was a lot of fights outside. We didn't have technology, we didn't have games, so we were kind of bored and we just fight a lot. We'd fight a lot. It was like neighborhood versus neighborhood, classrooms versus classrooms. There was a lot of fights. I remember there was a day when me and my friends looked at each other, we're like, well, we didn't get in fights today. Today was nice. It was peaceful. It was a rough childhood.
And what would you fight over? Just anything?
Anything, and it was a lot of arguments too, which was very weird. You'd go behind school, and you would argue. It was almost like a lawyer case. You would argue who's right and who's wrong for hours. So you get really used to this arguments.
Intensity.
It was, and then at the very last level was fight. So if you didn't get along or somebody said something wrong, you have to hit them to keep your respect in school. And so if you didn't hit them, you lose respect from your friends. And so sometimes I was forced to hit people because they'd say something disrespectful to me, and my friends would be like, hit him. So then I had to hit them. And so 6th, 7th grade, I actually got in a fight in classroom where I broke somebody's nose and I got expelled from school and I got arrested. So, and I'm in 7th grade. I mean, it was just a rough childhood. I mean, I had 4 or 5 jobs in Armenia full time before I moved to the United States. So I guess I grew up a little too fast.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about your sister.
My sister, so our culture is very strict, right? So I had to be the man of the house. I had to not let her wear skirts above her knees. It was very, it's very old school in Armenia. She would take care of me. She was a very good older sister, and so we were in a very close relationship. And as soon as we moved to U.S., so imagine my mom. And my sister and I moved to U.S. and my dad didn't see us for 7 years, and less than a year she got married and moved to East Coast.
Wow.
And so that was very hard for us too. So our family was never really together for a long time until recently when she moved to Washington.
Wow.
And we're finally, our families, everybody's in the same area, first time in our lives, which was, I think, in the last 5-6 years.
Wow. So your mom's here now too?
My mom is here.
And dad and mom are still together, and after all this distance and things, just amazing that the glue stuck. yeah,
they're in my house now. So in my culture, the youngest son takes care of the parents, stays in the house. So when I moved out, it was a little sad and weird. I was feeling guilty, and my dad didn't like it. And of course, my mom didn't like it, but she didn't say anything. And so a few years, I lived with my wife and my daughter, and we just, we came, I found a house that was a perfect floor plan where they could live in the in-law suite and have a big space for themselves. And so we just talked to each other. I talked to my wife, and we decided to live together. So now it's been 3 years where they live in the in-law suite where the grandkids can just open the door and go downstairs.
Wow.
And everybody's happy, and they're happy, we're happy. So it's working out for everyone. And I feel that we got to take care of our parents in our culture. And so that's what we did.
Do you look at what you normally see here in America, and where that isn't necessarily the cultural norm? It's a matter of fact, I think it's a rarity when parents are brought into a household. It seems like everybody's going their own ways in America. Your culture is different. To me, I'm drawn to it. I think that's really the way. I mean, the fact that your parents are there to be influence is on your children, that bigger family picture really draws me. But it's very different than you see so often in the United States. You say culturally that's the way it is. I like that. That's now, but it falls on the younger son to house the parents. Is it ever where someone like your older brother would do that, or is it always the younger son?
Yeah. There is families that's that way. There's families where it came from was the kids just couldn't afford to move out, or the older son would, and then there is space for the younger son to stay. And in my culture and the time being, not right now, but when I was growing up, they just couldn't afford it. And so the parents usually take care of the kids. And so my dad always had the vision of he's going to live in this big house where all kids are going to be in the same house, which is very, I guess, unrealistic in this part of the world, and is very hard to do that. But luckily, my brother is walking distance away, 0.7 miles from our house. And the way I look at it is not just a culture. I did move out, right? But he moved to the United States for us, right? I would never move 7 years away from my kids, right? So he did that for us. So I have to take care of him. I have to take care of my mom. Just the fact that everything they did for us, they almost lived for us. Everything was for us. So I have to take care of them. My brother, even though he's moved out, he still takes care of them too. So we make sure we want to keep them happy because their entire life sacrifice was for us. So we have to give back. And the other part of that is we enjoy being around our parents. And the same thing with my wife. My wife was raised in a house where the grandparents and parents are in the house. So she's used to a big household. And it was strange for her too when we moved out. It was a little lonely having 3 people in the house. At that time, we didn't have our son. So she's used to that as well.
I noticed you got married fairly young, at least by American standards. Is that more common in Armenia that people find their partner and get married in their early 20s?
Not anymore. It used to be. Now it's very Americanized in Armenia. People do move out. They can afford now. There's decent jobs there now. But I started following Christ at age 18. So I became I call it a true Christian because in Armenia, my mom put me to church to calm down, to not get in trouble. And so I was serving in the church, but I wasn't really mentally there. I was serving more of a community thing as something to do. My mom wanted me to do. But for several years of being a deacon in the church, what triggered me was one of my good friends after high school when he truly talked to me and about the Bible and what it's actually about. So before that, I never even read the Bible, even though I was serving the church. So that's when I became serious about it. So it was right after high school when I had no jobs, no opportunities, and I was really obsessed with martial arts training. And simply I was like, you know what? I'm just going to train and serve God. And then in the meantime, when Baskin-Robbins opportunity came along, I was ready to get married at a young age. I was ready to get married at age 20.
Hey, so
I
you
got
grew
married
up so
3 years
fast,
later.
you were effectively about 40.
Yes.
Yeah.
So imagine at a 9th grade when you think you're too old to play games, to now you're graduating and in reality kind of right after high school, now reality just kind of punches you in the face that what am I going to do with my life? I got serious, right? That's when Baskin-Robbins came on. I was at 21 years old. So I got serious. Now I don't know what I got myself into, but it was a good opportunity. I say yes to it, and now I have to run a business. And so I kind of
This wasn't just working at an ice cream store, by the way. This was serious about buying a franchise and running a business. That's way ahead of its time at that age to be thinking about franchise ownership.
I remember my friends on a Sunday, right, watched the Seahawks game, and I had to go work because I couldn't afford payroll. So I had to go to Baskin-Robbins and work from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Or sometimes I put somebody for 3 hours so I can go to church and then go back. I give myself hours just because the winter time it's going negative and I can't afford payroll.
Right.
So I was working 7 days a week while my friends were enjoying their weekends, and I was a little jealous, but
Yeah.
I remember I was just kind of mentally looking for an escape because I had to do this. I couldn't not open the store. It was the requirements, and it was very tough times for me. I was very lonely at that time.
You know, you've got these kids. Let's talk about your kids for a minute. Their ages right now.
My daughter is 8. She just turned 8, and my son is turning 4 next month.
Okay, and I think of like your daughter at 8. Okay, take her for example. At 7, your brother and your dad have left. You're the man of the house, and already responsibilities are happening. How do you blend wanting your children to be strong and independent with you not wanting them to grow up too fast? I would assume that you're wanting them to have a childhood different than your own in terms of responsibility and feeling secure in those things. How do you blend that, being an entrepreneur? The idea of giving them what you didn't have, and yet some of your great qualities come from what you had to navigate, right?
Yeah.
How do you blend that?
So it is actually a very hard question. The way I look at it is I'm a faithful person. So if I just leave it, if I raise them in faith, everything will come together. So I'm not worried about the future for them as long as they have faith. But, right, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right, for 14 years now. It's part of my martial arts career. My daughter is in martial arts. We can't play games outside like in Armenia. So in here, I feel that you got to do sports. That's your games. And that's what made me stay busy and not be out of trouble is sports. And so my daughter is... I want her to enjoy it because when that happened, when I came here and I thought I was too old to play, when I slowly accepted that I'm in 8th grade, 9th grade, even though my friends over there stopped going to school at that age and they were grown-ups, they were fully addicted to cigarettes at that time, grown-ups. And so being away from that circle, I slowly accepted it that I'm a kid, and it felt good. 9th grade, 10th grade, I really, really enjoyed high school. So my body was a child, but mentally I wasn't, right? So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed sports. So for me, it was a blast, those 4 years. And so I want my daughter to enjoy it. I want her to do sports. I want my son to do sports, stay busy. I feel that they need to be pushed in sports and in school, obviously, but I feel that, they're naturally kids and they'll play, and I just don't want to make them into robots, but I also at the same time want to push them. So I feel that with enough prayers, this balance will come in place. Your sporting activity as a kid started, behind the school, learning how to fight, but then evolved into a love for martial arts, a love for the art of fighting correctly of sorts. Your kids now are in jiu-jitsu, yeah? Yeah. And do you see your son being someone who will follow that? He obviously is very proud of you, I'm sure, and your accomplishments in the world of martial arts and MMA and all of the things that we'll get to in a minute. But do you feel his draw to that at this point? Or maybe it's your daughter that's drawn to it? Yeah, I see a lot of me in my son. He's a troublemaker already. He got kicked out of daycare for hitting kids already. So what calmed me down, what actually got me out of trouble in high school was joining martial arts, where my coach said, if you fight outside of the gym, you're getting kicked out of the gym. So that really played a big role into me just being more secure about myself, and that I'm stronger than others. I should not, sometimes turn the other cheek, right? So that's when I stopped getting in trouble. And I feel that with my son, he needs to spend that energy somewhere. And even he doesn't have to go professionally, but if he just trains and competes, that's good enough for me. If it's just wrestling, if it's just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I want him to compete. I want him to stay busy with sports. Otherwise, he's going to find something that he's going to get in trouble. So my job is to keep them busy. And eventually, if I have my own gym, then he can, train in my own classes.
It's interesting. In both spending time with you and your brother, the little time I've spent with both of you, you both seem very, very mild-mannered, very polite, very courteous, not overbearing like someone might picture somebody who is a professional fighter. And we're making that transition now, because I got to tell you, I've watched the last two of your fights. I've gone to, and one lasted, I'm going to say, I might be a little off, but it was the first round. I think it lasted a minute and a half or thereabouts, real close. And the last one, I don't even think it lasted a minute. It was over. And it's like a whole different demeanor shows up, a whole different kind of focus of, I don't know, it's hard to really explain, but it's an intensity and focus that is so very different. I think there was 8 or 10 fights, maybe more, before the final event. You're in the final event. This is the championship event. But when you came on, it was just like all business. It was a focus like I'd never seen. And then, man, these guys that looked very capable and very intimidating, they were down and out as fast as anything I've ever seen. Tell me about this focus, this ability to sort of almost switch demeanors. And maybe there is no switch. Maybe you're this focused in all parts of your life. But that's my impression, is there's a focus there that is rarely seen. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. So first of all, there is no emotion, there is no hate when I go in the cage. There is no any sort of like proving myself or I want to punish this guy, anything like that. It's all purely the sport itself. It's purely just winning. And my focus is purely, there's a lot going on in my mind. And so I'm really, really bad at focusing on two things at once. So if I'm in there dancing to the cage and having fun, then I'm kind of forgetting about my game plan sometimes, right? I can only focus on one thing. That's it. So that's my personality. If I'm like texting a friend, somebody talks, I cannot hear them. My friends hate me for that. My wife too. When I'm doing something, I cannot focus on two things at once.
Right.
I'm just that laser focused guy. So in the moment I'm present, and if I'm doing something, I'm doing that, nothing else. So it's there's a book on it, The Power of One Thing, I believe. Never read the book, but I heard about it. So when I'm walking in a cage, I mean, it's a nightmare before the walk. When I walk in a cage, the confidence comes in and I feel good, but it's a nightmare just leading up to the fight. It's very, very hard with the mental, I guess, the monkey in your back. You could call it the mental demons, whatever people call it. It's very hard to deal with that because it's constant doubts. The more I'm prepared, the more I doubt for some reason. But specifically my last fight, right? I had a sinus infection. I was sick the entire camp, and I'm on ibuprofen. The guy's bigger than me. He has just as much experience, maybe more, right? Fighting over 10 years. I used to watch him on TV when I was 19 on a reality show, and I would watch him fight. And so now I'm fighting this guy, and at the weigh-ins, I look at him. He's like way bigger than me, 6'2". I'm 5'11", and all right, so I'm sick. He's bigger than me, and he has the same amount of experience. If the experience was less, I'd have that be my confidence. So it's very, very difficult to lead up to the fight. But when I'm walking in a cage, I'm telling myself like this is my space now. This is, you're here with me. So and I feel very confident in my training with over the years, my technique and my training. So what made me more nervous was obviously being sick. That if you get tired, the training is out the window. Now you can't do anything. So I had to be, extra perfect for that fight to make sure I'm making the right moves every second. Was that
given your being sick leading up to that, you were out of country and got something that got you sick, right? So the being sick and being weakened, did your strategy for that fight change given that you may not have the endurance for 3 5-minute rounds? I mean, was it, I've got to do this now while I've got my initial strength and energy?
That sounds very logical, but I didn't commit to that. The reason being is when you commit to that and it doesn't happen, you're either extremely tired or you are mentally broken because you're like, well, I was expecting to finish this guy in 2 minutes and it didn't happen. Right. So the way I fight, the way I prepare, so even though I was sick, I was still ready I would train sick and I would push myself for 25 minutes. And, our training is sometimes every round is a new person or sometimes every 1 minute is a new person. And I stay in for 25 minutes. So if I could do that being sick, I can definitely fight one guy for 25 minutes. And my game plan was purely first round to actually take it a little bit easy, but whatever he gives me, I will take. Right. So just capitalize on his mistakes. And I was actually, the plan was to download his technique first round just to see what he does. Second round, hear my corners and capitalize on his weaknesses second round. But he gave me certain advantages first round and I just took the opportunity. So it happens every time. I never plan on finishing them, but my finish rate is 84% of my career. So 10 out of 12 fights.
What does that mean, finish rate?
It means the fight didn't go to the last round.
Oh, I see.
So I didn't win by points.
Right.
And I take pride in that, and that's what attracts UFC and the recruiters is when people cannot last long against you. And they were watching. I was told the recruiters are watching, so I had to make sure, I have an exciting win.
Yeah. Wow. Do you see the metaphors of all of what you experience as a professional fighter? Do you see the metaphors overlaid into the world of being successful in your relationships, being successful in your business? Do you think in terms of this is like that? For example, the mental battle between what I call the you and the anti-you. This doubting voice that's saying what you can't do versus the real voice that is who you really are and what you're capable of. Do you see that battle going on in other parts of life?
All the time.
Uh-huh.
With fighting, many fights I'd walk in the cage and I would just say, why am I doing this?
Yeah, why am I doing
I'm walking in the cage thinking, why am I doing this? Right. So I remember one of those fights, it was 5 fights ago. So it was 2022. I took the fight 2 weeks notice in East Coast. And I have no fans, nobody, just me and my coach. And I'm walking, and this is the hometown favorite. And I'm just walking. I'm like, I'm not even ready for this fight. Why did I take this fight? And so that's the other voice. And the other voice is like, no, I love this. I've been doing this for so long. So I'm trying to constantly remind myself why I'm doing it.
Right.
And I ended up winning that fight. It was funny because 2 weeks before that, I was on a work trip drinking with my friends at a pool. I ended up winning that fight. And since that fight, I changed my mentality. I said, why am I thinking these things? Right. No, it should be only confidence, and it should be only, I'm ready to do this. And so I changed my mentality ever since that fight, because I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel scared walking in a cage. So throughout the experience, when you constantly have this voice telling you, you don't even have to fight, right? I don't have to fight. I don't depend on that paycheck or anything like that. But I constantly believe in myself that I'm one of the best in the world. I just want to prove it to everybody. And so I have to constantly remind myself that I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. Right. So because that voice is always there. The NTU is always there, right?
Right.
We have to fight that. And that's in everything, right? It's you waking up and you going to work. You don't want to go work. You don't want to wake up early, right? I do cold plunges every morning. I don't want to jump in that cold, freezing water. Lately I've been working on my splits, stretching, and watching TV, and it's painful. I'm like, why am I giving myself this pain? Just evening pain, midday pain because I'm working out, morning pain from a cold plunge. It's just pain all the time. But that's what makes you better, right? That's what makes you better. You have to get through the pain, and that's life. And I'm constantly defeating my NTU, right? And I'm not letting myself get comfortable because I know that if I get comfortable, I'm going to go downhill. Or at least that's what I'm telling myself.
When you defeat the anti-you, when you take that voice and you set it in a corner and you say, shut up and stay there, does it get easier to defeat the anti-you because you've done it before? Is it almost like a workout that I'm going to defeat you every day, get used to this? But if you have a gap in that, I imagine it gets more difficult. I think it does for me, right?
It depends, right? I feel that when something you do repetitively, it gets easier. But when there is a new NTU coming in place,
that's it.
It's harder to defeat.
Right.
But when, for example, I don't feel like training, but I train every day, then the NTU slowly disappears. Now it's just part of my personality. I have to get this done every day.
Right.
But if you kind of get comfortable, it comes back.
Right.
So fighting, it never gets easy because it's a fight. You're getting in there with another being ready to take your head off. It never gets easy. But for the most part, in aspects of life, I feel that it's a muscle you train, right, to constantly defeat it. And as soon as you get comfortable, it comes back. Yeah. So there's never a rest from it.
What does your wife think about this fighting career of yours? Does she ever ask, when are we done with this? Does she worry about you?
All the time. All the time. I don't know if you noticed, but in my fights, as soon as my fight starts, she's outside.
I did notice that, which is why I'm asking. Like she goes all the way over there, but then when you start fighting, she leaves.
She leaves, and then she comes back when it's over.
Right. Did he win?
Yeah, she doesn't like it, obviously. My mom doesn't like it. They can't wait until I retire. But I told them, I'm going to do something else dumb. Let me just do this. And if it was me paying the bills, you guys would support me because I know they would. So I tell them, even I got our family to, I bought our dream home. I got our family comfortable. Now I need to do what I always wanted to do. I need to live my dream. And so they are on board for supporting my dream. They hate the fight, but they love the fact that that I love it, right? That it's my drive, and this is what I love doing. Part of me always wants to give it up, but how often can you say that, well, I can become one of the best in the world, or I can fight at the best league in the world, and I'm just going to give up? It's very hard to let go of that. I believe in myself, and I can't let go of it. If I do, I'll probably be extremely depressed. So it keeps me, because my entire life I never was comfortable, right? I never was in peace. I never was peaceful. My childhood wasn't peaceful. So I'm not used to in peace. I remember when I took 5 years off from fighting to build my business, that peace was weird for me. I was just, I'm going home. Are you telling me I don't have to diet? I don't have to go train? I don't have to get nervous about waking up tomorrow early to go train? It was weird for me. I wasn't used to it. And I don't know what's going to happen to me when I retire, because a lot of fighters get in trouble, but I feel that I can substitute with other obsessions. So for now, I'm just focused on today. I'm focused on next X amount of years that I can fight and train. So then I'll let the future take care of itself. You and your brother are among the very, very best of the best in the State Farm insurance umbrella. What's the secret sauce? What's the inner office locker room conversation look like between the two of you to stay at the very, very top of that game? I mean, there's thousands
of agents who are involved in State Farm in this country, and to be in the handful of the very top, there's something going on there. There's a secret sauce. There's a drive. There's a way you go about it that's very different. Do you mind sharing what that is?
Yeah. So our stories are very different because he started, I believe, 14 years ago. I started 6 years ago. And so obviously it starts with being competitive. For me, it's just to keep up with him. He's human, his team is human, I'm human, my team is human. So how do I keep up with him? How do I get the same results? So I'm not using the excuse of, well, he's been doing it for longer than me. Even though he's my mentor, he's been around much longer. For both of us, obviously it starts with being competitive. And I learned a lot from him, and I believe he learned some things from me. But one of the biggest things, and I think that we both agreed on, is that we're in a business of people, not just customer-wise, but our team. And as long as we keep our team happy and we find the right people and we keep them happy, we both run our offices like a family. And we are very close to our team members. And we don't run it like we're bosses. We're not bosses at all. We're
part of the team.
Yes, we're their coaches, we're their mentors, we're their friends. I always tell my team we're like a family. I run my office like a family. My job is families have difficulties. They have arguments, they have drama. So it's okay. We're going to have these difficulties and we're going to still stick together. So they understand that. And I want to, we want to find the right people who fits in this family, and we support them. And one of the biggest things for me is, the saying, motivation gets you started, habit gets you going. So obviously everybody start a new job, they're motivated, right? And then it goes away. But my biggest goal is for my team to be happy. I want the office to be the escape from their difficulties of their lives versus other way around. When they're, partying or whatever it is, when they're using outside the world as an escape from the office, but the office, they spend more hours in the office than outside. Right? Being awake at least, not counting the sleep. So I want the office to be their comfort zone, to be their happy zone, and have to create that environment. At the same time, hold them accountable for it, right? I'm holding my kids accountable for certain things, so I should hold my team accountable for things. So the pressure is there, the accountability is there, but at the same time, we're happy, right? I'm not their boss. I'm not there to make their day miserable. I'm not entitled to, if they're on my payroll, I have to demand things and boss them around. Just because somebody's on my payroll doesn't mean that I shouldn't be thankful for everything they're doing for me. Because somebody else can do that and make me miserable at the same time.
Right. So
my team can see how much I appreciate them, and I think they appreciate me for that. And Hike runs it the same way. We go above and beyond for our teams. We don't just run it and use them. We go above and beyond for them, and they go above and beyond for the customers. And it passes on to the customers. And I think that's our biggest secret. And then obviously other pillars are your processes of the office, the marketing and networking and other aspects of business. But the biggest thing is people. Figuring out the team and people. What's funny is my brother one time mentioned it. We watch X-Men. It's a superhero movie, right? And the bad guy wakes up after thousands of years. First thing he does, he recruits a team. He recruits other villains.
Other bad guys.
Yeah, other bad guys. So the first thing he does is a team. Build a team. So without a team, you can't go anywhere. Yeah. So
I think that's huge, and I think that going over and above too. I think there's a mentality out there of I see it a lot of what's the least I can do to get by. What's the least I can pay somebody to get the job done, and it never works out. It's like when you start that way and then wonder why you didn't get a quality end result. It's like, well, you asked for the cheap route. You asked to just be a minimalist yourself. Well, why should you complain that that's what you got as a result? You get what you put in. And so I really like that. I really like that. I want some compare and contrast. You have experience in a franchise like Baskin and Robbins, and now headlong and hard as well into State Farm. They're very, very different operations. Do a little compare and contrast for me in terms of your experience being up to your neck in both of them.
Yeah, it's restaurant business in general is probably the most difficult business to run. Mm-hmm. Mine is slightly easier because we don't have cooking. We don't have a cook in the back. It's ice cream, right? Yeah. We build cakes, so we have to have a cake decorator, and we have team members employees who help customers with their milkshakes and ice cream scoops and that sort, right? It's a lot harder than State Farm, at least for me. You don't have to be as intelligent to be successful in Baskin-Robbins because it's basic, right? Mm-hmm. I teach the team members how to do the menu, how to smile to the customer, and if they know how to prepare everything, they're good to go. It might take a few weeks to train. State Farm, to really get somebody on an elite level, it takes sometimes years. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a little bit less, right? But it's at least 6 months for somebody to be a little comfortable answering the phone and helping our customers. Mm-hmm. So, and it's Baskin-Robbins 7 days a week versus State Farm Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So worst case, if I don't have a team, I can work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. I can run it. State Farm, it's 11 hours. Baskin-Robbins, it's 11 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you don't have an off button. It's constantly on. It never stops, right? So we've been running it for 10 years now, and we just never, you're never relaxing mentally. Yeah, you're on vacation. You're somewhere. There's difficulties. It could be an employee lost a key. Something happened. So it's very difficult. To run especially a smaller food, when in Washington State, it's almost like they're working on shutting down a lot of these small businesses, because Baskin-Robbins is a very small business because of minimum wage increasing, and we are forced to increase prices. It's very difficult to stay in business. But again, if we can figure out a good team, good employees, smile to the customers, because when they're coming in to eat ice cream, it's not just about the calories. It's about somebody want to have a better day. Maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they had a bad day at work or going through difficult times. So I tell my team, you might save their lives. Mm-hmm. You might smile and ask them about their day, and you just have a good talk with them. It might change things in them. So they're here to be a little bit happier. Mm-hmm. So it's your job to deliver that. And it's a different world, right? State Farm is we protect people's finances. It's totally different conversations. Baskin-Robbins is very quick, transactional, smile, treat them properly, and move on. It's very different, but when it comes down as a business owner, it's pretty much the same when it comes down to finding the right people and treating them the right way.
I'm a student in the world of business and business models, and the engineering of how complicated is the engineering. The more complex it is, the more moving parts, the more there is to go wrong. But it does come down to, in any model, competent, committed people that feel happy to be there, that want to be there. So I think that's fantastic. I want to talk about the competitiveness of you and your brother. I have an older brother too. I don't, and I think it was since we rolled into adulthood, we haven't competed. But certainly when we were a year and a half apart or thereabouts, when we were being raised, it seemed like all we did was compete because we played together. We were on similar sports teams, same dad throwing us passes. Who's going to catch it? Who isn't? That kind of competition. The swords, sharpening swords, I think can be a really, really good thing. And my feeling is that that's the interplay between you and Hike. There's a funny story that I want you to tell if you're willing. I'm not trying to. When Hike hears this, I hope he thinks it's funny, but where Hike thought, well, maybe I want to get into this fighting thing and give it a shot. I'd like to hear about that story.
Yeah, that was our young punk years of our lives. When I just joined jiu-jitsu, so I'm 6 months into it, right? And Hike, he would go to the clubs and he would fight a lot outside too. So there was a lot of fights, and he was good at it. Okay, he was good at it, and he was fit. He was working out all the time, but he never was part of a gym. He never trained at a legit gym. So one day I can't remember how it started, but I know he was interested in fighting. And I said, you're fit and stuff. Maybe you should sign up for a fight. So I found a promoter and I found a fight event, and we signed him up. Signed him up for a heavyweight division. It was amateur, but the opponent was from a very good gym and very well trained. So Hike's training was really just LA Fitness, jump rope, and lifting weights and running. So not a single day of sparring, which is so wrong. So I believe he was 21 or 22. I was 17, 18. And we went to the fights. And it was funny because it's the warm-up time and our friends are in there. And he's just making jokes. He's having fun. And I'm like, oh, Hike, get serious. And he's like, Albert, relax, man. We're here to have fun. he's not warming up. There's all fighters in there getting their hands wrapped. And he's in there just not taking this serious at all. And then we start the fight, which actually he did not do bad first round. He went to the second round, and he didn't know the rules either. So he thought maybe if he gets hit enough, the guy will get tired and then he'll get up and win. But then if you don't get hit enough and you don't act, the referee stops the fight because he sees that you're not in condition to fight back. And so that's what happened. But I think it was a good lesson for both of us to learn that you should be fully prepared for a fight specifically, because then you'll get injured.
Well, I can tell just in the couple of fights I've been to that you've had, he is your greatest fan. I mean, I think he's probably way more nervous than you are. Just, I can see his body language, and he's right there, and he's just kind of a little bit like your wife. He doesn't leave; he's right there, but you can tell he's your greatest fan, and I think that kind of support is really also awesome. It's a family thing, but it almost seems like a best friend thing too. That he's right there with you.
He's been to all of my fights, and in the beginning, I was. Started with basketball because my dad was an NBA fan. And when I quit, my dad was very angry at me because you're a quitter. You just you didn't even try hard. You didn't do your best. So I quit and I started football. I didn't tell my dad I'm playing football. One day he just noticed it. So when I quit football for martial arts, I didn't want to tell my dad. And I couldn't pay the bill of the gym, so my brother was paying it. So I trained for about a year without telling my dad that I'm doing martial arts, and my brother was paying my bills. So, it started with him supporting me and paying for my gear and the gym membership and all that. So the support started with him, right? I was in 11th grade when I started it. So, wow. And then ever since my first fight, I mean, he's been a huge support. He's a fan, he's a brother, he's a supporter, he's a friend. So it's all of it. And we're very close as brothers. I think more closer than many other siblings I see. And we still keep that going. Definitely have that competitiveness because it's the same last name and people constantly comparing us.
Right.
And it's fun. I think the competitive part in the business is fun. To me, it's purely fun. We both are winning, so that's what we got to focus on. I don't in any way try to be better than him. I just compete for fun. And it's a biblical thing too. It's You shouldn't try to be higher and better than others. You should bring yourself low, like you're the servant, right? So that's the way I look at it. The competitive is just numbers. I mean, we both are successful. The way I look at it, we're taking care of our life. Everything is fine. We're just having fun.
I like that. I like that you seem to treat your business like sport, but even the sport you're in, I think people think sports and they think, oh, that's fun. We do it like a sport. Sports are fun. Well, I'll tell you, the first time I ever saw, not in live version. The first live version was watching your fight, but years and years ago, when MMA was first coming out, I was fogged in at an airport, and there was no way to get out until the fog lifted, and so we're waiting to take off in a float plane out in the middle of nowhere, and there was this big screen in kind of the waiting lounge, and the guy I was with is flipping channels, and all of a sudden there's this MMA fight. And I even remember the name of the guy. The last name of this guy was Gracie. That's all I remember. But he looked a lot like me, meaning a tall kind of guy, not real big. I'd say, like 6'1" and 185 or something like that, not really big and muscular. And he said, oh my gosh, watch this guy. He's one of the very best. This is a decade ago or more. And right after the fight started, this guy is on his back and he's like covering up, and this guy's sitting on top of him, just pounding him. And the guy that on top looked much bigger, much stronger. And my friend said, no, just watch him. Just watch him. Just keep watching. This is what he does. And I don't know how long this went on. It seemed forever to me. I'm like, this is fun. This is a sport. This guy's getting pummeled. And then like a mousetrap, it just was like a mousetrap went off. And all of a sudden, he's got this guy's neck with his legs and flips him over, and boom, it was done. It seemed like it happened in 3 seconds. And he said, see, that's what he does.
Technique. Yeah.
And I went, okay, wow, that was a strategy? That position was, he knew what he was doing there? And obviously he did. I've gotten more educated in this, but I've never thought of fighting like a fun sport, because there doesn't seem to be anything fun being on the receiving end of just getting beat like that. But you're very much in control of however this is. You're strategizing, where's the opportunity here? And to me, I guess where I'm going with this is the metaphor. I call the world of real estate acquisition, I call it a sport. It's a sport. It's not life and death. Yours seems much more like life and death, the fighting thing. Mine has never been about life and death. The worst thing is you might dive into something and lose some money. Well, make some more money. The worst thing in yours is you get completely knocked out. It seems worse to me. But the fact that you call it a sport, I think, frames it the right way, that we're doing this as a quality of life piece, as a pursuit of passion. Enjoy this. Even when you lose, enjoy what you've learned out of that to come back stronger the next time. And I imagine you debrief every fight you have. You watch the film, you take it apart. I've got to imagine you do that to get better. Am I right?
Yeah, there's so much into it. There is, it might look like just, 80 seconds, but for example, there's the distance. There's 3 different distances. There's the safe zone, there is the middle distance, and then there's the closing distance, right? So there is, when you get a little bit closer now, that's the fight zone. So there's 3 different zones. There is the angles. If I'm at a right angle, now I'm at a better position. There is the level changes where if he comes too hard, I can go down and take him down, which happened in this fight. He actually came in a little bit aggressive, and that takedown was extremely easy because I timed it properly, right? So there's timing. There is, on the ground now, there's a whole different sport now, right? There is the standing, which is boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, there's the fighting sport. And then to take the guy on the ground, that's wrestling. That's its own sport. Some people do 20 years of that just to take somebody on the ground, right? Now they're good at that. And then there is the sport on the ground, which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Gracies started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
And so on the ground, it becomes a whole different world. It's Jiu-Jitsu with punches, pretty much. And if you notice in my fight, as soon as I take him down, what happens is fighters right away pull guard, meaning they wrap my body with their legs. So I instantly passed the guard. So I made it into a one move, took him down past the guard right away. Because if you stay in the guard now, you have to fight and spend a lot of energy to pass the guard. So I made it into a one flow move that I've been practicing my entire camp. And so as soon as I passed, now I trapped them with the cage. And the elbows are nice because they're more damage with short distance and less energy spent. And I just saw the opportunity by doing it for so many years without thinking, and I just took the opportunity because he wasn't the best at defending himself. So that's another art. There is fighters where they're in the worst position, they know how to defend themselves properly. He wasn't good at that. So there is so much into the sport, right? You got the explosiveness, you got the cardio, you got the speed, you got the weight cut, which takes away a lot of that. So you have to properly do that. There is the distance, there is the angles, there is the timing, there is the accuracy. So there is so much involved in it. It's very hard to be good at everything. One of the things why I think I'm really good at is because of 14 years doing it. Because there was a phase of my life I was just wrestling, phase of my life I was just boxing, phase of my life I was just doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 7 days a week. So I became somewhat of an expert at every aspect of it. So I'm more of a balanced fighter. And whatever is my weakness, I just hire a coach and try to work on that specifically. So right now I have a very good world-class striking coach. I have a really good team, and it's 3 different sports. So pretty much I'm doing 3 different sports in 1 week period. So you can't do just one thing because then somebody else will take an advantage of your weakness of a different aspect, right? If I'm a really good boxer, somebody can be a really good wrestler. Now they beat me on the ground. So in this day and age, everybody's good at everything, but I just believe that my level is a little bit higher.
So Albert, with this fighting career that you're very much a part of, how much do you train? How many hours a week do you dedicate toward this passion, towards this pursuit? And what does your team consist of in terms of not only personnel, but the commitment of not only time, but I'm assuming finances to pay for coaches and gyms and things like this. Give me a feel for what that looks like.
Yeah, so it starts with the commitment and then the schedule.
Yeah.
So I have to stick to my schedule. There is a training where I'm outside of the camp, which I am learning more skills and experimenting new techniques.
Outside of the camp, what does that mean?
So the camp is when I have a fight coming up, we start a training camp about 6 weeks before.
Oh, I see.
Training camp is to slowly build you, prepare you for the fight. And it gets harder and harder and harder. The hardest part about the camp is the fight rounds that we do. So I stay in the middle, we call it the shark tank. And it's either every round is a new body that comes in and you go one round with the guy.
A fresh body.
Yes, fresh body every round. Sometimes we call it redlining, which is way harder than the shark tank. What's funny is that in the fight world, shark tank is the hardest thing ever. And I realized redlining is even harder. Redlining it's 1 minute with new body every minute. And they put you in bad positions and you have to constantly get out. Back to bad position, constantly get out. Bad position, constantly. And it's nonstop, almost sprinting for 25 minutes. Versus if it's a shark tank, you're sparring somebody, you can still have some moments where you rest.
Right.
So the redlining was even worse.
Wow.
But it gets you in better shape. So now we do mixture of that, and that's every single week. It's not, I don't look forward to those practices. They're very painful. They're horrible, but it needs to be done. It needs to be done. But when you are done with it, you just go home the entire day. You think about, I got through it. I got through it. It was fun. It was not fun, but it was fun getting through it, right? So, and then you have to recover properly. So you have to ready for the next practice, right? And the next one. So my schedule consists of mornings, right? Mornings, it's either strength and conditioning or my striking coach comes to my garage. So I specifically, being a business owner and a family man, I had to create convenience for me. That's the most important piece. Otherwise, it's impossible to do what I do without convenience. So luckily, my striking coach comes to me, right? So in the mornings, I do my strength and conditioning. Sometimes I'll do recovery. I build a recovery room in my house where I have a cold plunge and sauna and hot tub. So I either go through that. Depends on how my body feels, right? I either go really hard or I recover. And then evenings, almost every evening, there is training. Mondays, Wednesdays is actually, I'm the coach of the class, but I also do my own coaching. So if I tell everybody to do a certain move for the next 15 minutes, I'm doing it with them. If I say we're sparring, I'm sparring with them. So I am the student of my own class, which is really good because I'm doing what I need to do, but everybody's benefited from it. And there was a group of guys that benefits it and they're fighters and they love it. And we all just committed to these time and day, and we're doing it at a gym where the coach was on board for it. So I do that, and then Mondays, Tuesdays, and Saturdays are the hard sparring days, the one I was just describing. And every morning it's either weight, strength, and conditioning, or my striking coach, which we go through strategies. And then we have some days I might just go for a run or go for other active recovery workouts. So if I'm just doing training, maybe it's about 15 hours a week, 16 hours a week. But if I add up my recovery sessions, I might go get a massage, I might go get assistant stretching, I might do hot yoga. Then it gets up to about 20 hours a week. You have to do recovery. You must do recovery. Otherwise, the next training, you either get injured or you cannot push yourself as hard. So some trainings are a lot of technique, which still takes a lot of energy. Some trainings are purely about mimicking a fight. So you are sharp and you are good to fight. And those trainings are specifically when you have a fight coming up. If you don't have a fight coming up, it's a regular training. You go in, you do technique, you drill, and you spar and you experiment. So those are fun. Those are really fun. But when you have a fight coming up, the fun is kind of out the window. The fun part is the discipline where you just get through it and you get sharper and you really enjoy that process.
And with coaches and gym memberships, you're an entrepreneur, you have your own business. Can somebody pull this off? Having I guess what I would call a regular, I've got to be at work at 9, I get off at 5, I commute, so I leave the house at 8, I get home at 6. Is it possible to do something like this if you worked at Boeing or if you had a normal job?
It's definitely possible. There's a lot of fighters that are 9-to-5 workers. They either train after work or they train before work or they do both. Obviously, during your job, now if you're tired, then it depends on performance and what kind of job it is.
Yeah.
I would just suggest those people that want to either lose weight or work out or train twice a day, just midday, you must take your naps. When you put your body towards that, you have to recover it. And it has to be proper diet in place. It's very... can you repeat the question one more time?
Well, yeah. I mean, somebody that has a fixed schedule, I'm looking at, 20 plus hours a week. It has to be that's a big commitment.
Right. Yeah. And the point that I wanted to make that I forgot was And also it's about family and commitment, right? So if you have a family, now you want to get back to your kids and your family after work, right? So it gets difficult now. If you go train and you go home at 8 o'clock and your kids sleeping at 9, now you have family issues. So the balance has to be there. So the way I made it is that only Tuesdays I'm training until 10 p.m. Mondays, Wednesdays, I'm home at 7:30. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's all day, all evenings are free for family. And one of the days I have an agreement with my wife, I hang out with my friends, right? So that balance has to be there too for my friends. And so to me, right, Sunday mornings is church. So it's just that 4 things, which is training, work, right, family, God, not in particular order, but right, obviously for me, a faithful person, God is first, and then family and work, and then my sport. But my schedule says otherwise. But it's if you pick and choose what your commitments are and what your priorities are, and you create a schedule and you come to an agreement with your spouse and you stick to it. And you just repeat that over and over and over. That's all I'm doing. I don't pick up new hobbies. I don't want to commit to new things, right? I love other things, right? I went to play golf with my friends one time, and I said, I don't have time for it. I love doing it, but not right now. I'd love to go do it every weekend. I'd love to go do other hobbies that are fun. I love snowboarding. I used to do that for a bit, but it all takes away from the main goals, and so I don't want to do that to myself.
The ability to say no, know your priorities, and say no. When it's all wrapped up, Albert, when you're an old guy and you're looking back, what is the theme? How do you measure your success on planet Earth with everything you've got going on? How are you going to measure if you won or not?
The way I look at it is two ways, right? One is the selfish way, is what I do for myself. Will I be proud of myself? Will I be happy with myself? And 2 is for others, right? And there is a huge part of it is for others is a priority, right? My kids, my wife, I want to make sure, my kids specifically are led properly to adulthood, and they're on the right track, and they're good human beings, and they're helping others. To me, especially with my faith, the biggest priority is helping others, not just on earth, but also after life, right? After life, that's the faith that is all about, right? Christianity and the Bible. So how many people can I bring to Christ and save them? Because that's what saved me. And so my lifestyle doesn't show that, because I just, I'm a deacon in church once a week. I do Bible study sometimes. My life just shows that I'm a martial artist. But also outside of faith, I want to pass on the knowledge. I want to pass on the knowledge to others. Maybe do help people become world champions. Maybe do help people to create their own lifestyles or stay out of trouble, right? That's 2. Third one is now my business, my team. I want to make sure my team makes good money, they're happy, they invested properly in their own lives, they're happy in over there, and obviously my family. So there's a lot of people that I want to help, earthly and spiritually. Currently, because I'm on a time limit of my fight career, I am fully focused on just fights. It's a very selfish sport, right? It's all me, my fights, my schedule, my diet, right? This is what I have to eat, this is what I have to do. So it's a very selfish sport to accomplish this, but I think that it can come in place where my kids one day will be proud of me, my friends will be proud of me, and everybody that really been rooting for me, if I reach my goals, they'll be proud of me, right? But at the end of the day, the most important piece is really making sure my family is okay, my church and people that I influence properly, that at least the influence part, right? They look at me and they say, man, I want to do what Albert did, and he's pulling it off. Why can't I?
Right, right.
So just
I think
helping others.
I think you're already doing that. I mean, you pose a challenge in the best way, a challenge that you can do all of this and have high achievement. And I think that all by itself it's already in play. It's happening. Keep going. I think you're doing it.
Thank you. Thank you. I will.
Buddy, and thank you for being here today. Thank you for allowing us to have this time together. This started with that word dedication, and I think I'm going to have to say I think I hit that one on the you know what you want, you're committed to it, you're going after it, and to me that's such an inspiration. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for listening. Albert, how do people stay in touch with you? How do they follow you? How do they watch you as a human, as a fighter? How do they best communicate with you?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on my Instagram, so I don't have really my own podcast or any other social networking events or anything like that I do. I don't have a consulting company, but just simply Martial Art Nerd. That's the name of my Instagram page.
Martial Art Nerd.
Yeah, so it's either Albert Tadevosyan or Martial Art Nerd will bring up my Instagram page. It's a fight profile. I teach some techniques and you can follow me there and to see my lifestyle and hopefully, support me and follow my journey to what I want to accomplish.
I know they will. I know they will. Thank you again, my friend. I
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
me, Greg.
Thank you for watching.